You know those strange little habits we all have, the ones that don't really make sense to anyone else? Well, what if I told you they're not just random quirks at all? What if they're actually a kind of secret language telling a much, much deeper story about who we are? I mean, really think about it for a second. Why do you get that feeling, that physical urge to run, when someone at a party starts talking about the weather? Why does small talk feel like actual torture for so many of us?
Or, hey, maybe you know this person. The friend who literally cannot sit down and relax until every single thing is in its place. Every pillow fluffed, every counter wiped. We might jokingly call them a control freak, but is that really what's going on?
And then you've got the real head scratcher, the person who just disappears. They ghost their friends, maybe even family, and they just cut ties. And the weirdest part? They seem totally fine with it, almost lighter. Is that person just cold and heartless, or is there something else at play? Well, the answer to all of these questions is actually the same. These behaviors, they're not random. They are a super sophisticated language that your mind is using to tell you what it needs, whether that's control, connection, or just plain survival. So today, let's translate that language.
First up, let's tackle the big one, control. Look, we live in a pretty chaotic world, right? So our brains are constantly, desperately looking for something, anything we can manage. And for a lot of us, that one little sanctuary of control is our own home.
So let's go back to that person who finds this deep, genuine sense of calm from cleaning and organizing. It is so easy to just label them as obsessive. But what's really happening is that they're using a powerful psychological tool. They're not just wiping down a counter, they are literally managing their own mind.
And the science on this is pretty amazing. Researchers at Princeton found that physical clutter in your environment actually fights for your brain's attention. Every out-of-place object increases what's called your cognitive load. Think of it like using up your mental RAM. So clutter doesn't just look chaotic, it makes your brain feel chaotic.
So when someone cleans to calm their anxiety, what they're doing is creating order on the outside to soothe the chaos on the inside, right? You can't control your racing thoughts, but you can control the state of your desk. It's exactly what this says. It's not obsession, it's a way to regulate your emotions.
And this need for control pops up everywhere. That person who wakes up at 5 a.m., it's about getting a win before the world has a chance to throw chaos at them. Having a super rigid routine? It's not about being boring. It's a brilliant way to save mental energy. And hating to host parties? That's just about protecting your home as the one place your brain can finally power down.
Okay, next up, let's talk about the price of connection. Because for a huge number of people, socializing isn't free. It comes with a very real cost, and their habits are all about managing that emotional budget.
The absolute easiest way to get this is to think of your social energy just like a phone battery. We all wake up with a certain amount of charge, right? But the way we use that charge, and more importantly, how we recharge, is wildly different for everyone.
See, for an extrovert, a big party is like plugging into a fast charger. It gives them a rush of dopamine, that reward chemical. But for an introvert, that exact same party is what drains their battery down to zero. Their brain is just wired differently. It rewards quiet time with a totally different neurotransmitter. So for them, home isn't the boring option, it's the power bank.
So when you see these behaviors, you're not seeing a character flaw. You're seeing a strategy. Hating a crowded concert isn't being antisocial. It's protecting yourself from sensory overload. Hating small talk isn't being arrogant. It's like having an allergy to conversations that have no depth. And loving to stay home, that's not sad. It's a smart, intentional choice to recharge.
And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, and maybe the most profound one. What if some of our most confusing habits have nothing to do with today? What if they're actually echoes from a past that literally rewired our brains just to survive?
This quote, it just gets right to the point, doesn't it? The person who seems so cold, so distant, they didn't just wake up like that one day. That behavior is a skill, and it was learned over a very, very long time.
And that blueprint often starts way back in childhood, where maybe you learned that needing people was dangerous, that it only leads to getting hurt. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine, so it stores that data. And now, as an adult, you build these huge walls, not to be mean, but simply to survive. It's a deeply learned program running in the background. But, and this is so important, not everyone who learns these hard lessons comes out hardened. In fact, there's this incredible phenomenon called post-traumatic growth. The research shows that about 2/3 of people don't just bounce back from really tough times, they actually bounce forward.
And this explains a whole other set of habits. You know that person who's weirdly calm in a crisis? It's probably because they've seen way worse. The friend with the really dark sense of humor?
They're using it to take power back from pain. And that person who is almost aggressively empathetic, they learned to read a room's emotions as a survival skill. Their pain literally became their superpower.
So, this brings us to the big reframe of this whole thing. For pretty much every habit we've been taught to label as bad or weird, there's a deeper psychological truth. It's about time we started seeing these things not as flaws, but as the incredible survival skills that helped us get to where we are today.
This is the new language. So instead of antisocial, let's try protecting limited social energy. Instead of controlling, think creating external order to soothe internal chaos. Cold and distant is just self-preservation based on past data. And boring? No. It's prioritizing low stimulation, high comfort activities. It's just a different way of being.
Ultimately, the big takeaway is this. These behaviors we're so quick to judge in ourselves and in other people, they are not character flaws. They are sophisticated, often brilliant survival mechanisms that were developed by a brain that was just doing its absolute best to navigate a really complicated world.
Your habits, all of them, are your autobiography. They tell the story of what you've needed to feel safe, how you've protected your energy, and how you learned to survive. So the question isn't whether your habits are good or bad. The real question is this: what is your story telling you?